Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Ask the Expert webinar. We're going to give everybody a couple more minutes to get logged in, and then we'll get started. So if you guys can just hang with us for 1 to 2 minutes, getting everybody logged into the system, and then we'll kick it off. Again, we have people joining in. We have the numbers climbing here, but we want to give everybody a few more seconds to log in, maybe 1 more minute, and then we'll get started. Thanks, guys. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Ask the Expert webinar, Exploring Bluebeam Cloud. My name is Casey Novak, a part of our marketing team here at Bluebeam, and I will be your moderator today. Before we begin, let's review a few housekeeping items. First, at the bottom of your screen are multiple tools that you can use. Second, all the engagement tools are resizable and movable. So you're welcome to move them around to get the most of your monitor space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can submit them through the Q&A engagement tool on your screen. We will try to answer these during the Q&A after the presentation, but if we run out of time, questions will be answered later via email. Please note, we do capture all questions. So in the related content tool, you'll find resources and links that you may find helpful. We encourage you to check them out. So this webinar is being streamed through your computer, so there's no dial-in number. However, for the best audio quality, please make sure your computer speakers or your headset are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear the presenters. Some networks do cause slides to advance more slowly than others, so logging off your VPN is recommended. Also, you can find answers to some common technical issues in the Help tool at the bottom of your screen. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's presenters. First of all, we have Josiah Conrad. He's our Group Product Manager at Bluebeam with 23 years experience, deeply rooted in technology, having worked with diverse products ranging from flight simulation to construction software. Josiah has been at Bluebeam for more than 8 years and is known for his ability to build authentic, strong partnerships with internal teams and users alike. We also have with us today Peter Noyes, a Principal Product Manager with 20 years experience at Bluebeam. Peter brings a depth of experience across desktop, mobile, web, and cloud products. As one of Bluebeam's original software developers, Peter has a deep understanding of the challenges that customers face and how Bluebeam can help. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Josiah to get us started with today's presentation.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for being here, everyone. Appreciate you being here. Like Casey said, I've been here about 8 years at Bluebeam and about 2 years in this particular role. So I'm relatively new to this role, but really love the time I've had at Bluebeam. If I've learned anything in that time, it's that we all got here because of the people like you who tuned in and contributed. So we're really looking for more of that here. This really is a conversation, so please get those questions fired up. We really appreciate you spending your time with us in this conversation. You may have been here since the very beginning, somewhere back in the 2000s. You may have been here for the first time today. Either way, we'd love to speak today. So we're going to jump ahead and show you a little bit about what we're going to talk about. Since some of you are new to Bluebeam, we really want to start off by giving a high-level overview of what we have to offer, just the products and services. Next, we'll get a little bit into how we got here, why it is we're excited about where we're headed. Of course, the webinar is titled Explore Bluebeam Cloud, and so we'll definitely get into some of that new stuff. And Peter and I are far from being the experts. We've got a whole team of product managers that work with us to make that happen. We do collectively know just a thing or two about our products. We really are here for the questions. Don't be afraid about asking hard ones. We can take it. This is a conversation. So let's get started. So if you've been with us for any length of time, you've probably heard about our flagship product called Revu. We most affectionately here refer to just as Bluebeam. That started back early in the 2000s with PDF creation, then markup. It's evolved into this kind of super powered markup collaboration tool that exists today. It's available for Windows-based computers. It does support some virtual environments as well. If you're a Mac user like I am, use it in a virtual environment. It is a heavyweight tool. It's got considerable power, which is really, really great. It has some associated similar heavyweight deployment and onboarding lifts as well, part of the cost of getting up to speed in Revu. But once you've got it up and running and you're up to speed, you're kind of in God mode. You choose your own adventure, and the sky is the limit for how you use it. Slightly lighter weight is Revu for iPad. That's still available. It's built on the same code base as Revu for Windows and provides some of that heavyweight functionality on your iPad. It does endure some of the limits of that platform, but it is very functional. It's a great way to get out into the field with some of the Revu functionality. Also, within Revu, you can access Studio for collaboration. Use it for design review, document sharing, whether in your office or with your team externally. It has some really good functionality that takes your documents and helps you communicate around those documents, but outside your desk. But it's still primarily to other people at desktops with Revu, of course on the iPad as well, but the primary audience there is people on Revu at this point today. We do still offer a product called Studio Prime that does give larger organizations some product insights, as well as some control over their studio users. But just as a side note, SSO now actually offers better user management for the larger orgs and to keep admins in the driver's seat when it comes to identity creation management. That's kind of the Revu ecosystem. I'm going to jump forward one more slide here and just give you a little high level of what those kind of the values that you find in the Revu ecosystem. All right. So right out of the gate, you see we have the best-in-class markups. The idea behind markups is that you're able to take your intellectual property and turn it into a representation of that communication, and you can place it on your drawings. That's not a new concept, but what is new about markups is that Bluebeam lets you do it in a way that no one else lets you do it. It's a very powerful thing. It's something that only Bluebeam has to offer in that way. Team collaboration, obviously, the idea of Studio that gets your data out into the field. It helps you talk to teams that aren't a part of your internal team potentially. And one side note there is you don't actually have to be a paid user or a subscriber to do that. There is a mode wherein you can do that without that. Jumping forward, Revu has some great features around estimation and cost calculation. If you've been around for a while, you've seen a lot of the measurements tools, the counting tools, legends, things like that really help you streamline that process. Tool chest, we touched on that a moment ago. Tool chest is effectively a collection of markups. So you're able to create a toolbox of the things you've created called markups and take that with you. You can share that with people on your team, so you're all using the same types of markups and make sure that everyone's speaking the same language. Great functionality. If you're familiar with the technology of a light board, laying documents on top of each other so you can see what's different, Revu has a lot of that functionality baked into it. You can do that very quickly. It helps draw attention to changes and helps you just move really quickly as you're comparing things. And last on this list, but certainly not least in Revu, is visual search. It is a Bluebeam unique functionality that lets you search for a visual attribute of a drawing, whether it's raster or a pure PDF in vector, where you can actually find things like plumbing fixtures, doors. You can do counts from it, help you navigate your way through drawings just simply on a visual that you can highlight and search for. Really great way to count things. There's a lot of other features there in Revu that are along the lines of scale and building faster. Things like dynamic fill let you find something like a floor area, for example, on a really unusually shaped floor. Things like batch functionality lets you really move quickly in hyperlinking or streamlining large processes within Revu. So those things are things that really help Revu work at scale. So jumping ahead here to Bluebeam Cloud. Bluebeam Cloud is the newest part of our product portfolio here at Bluebeam. It actually lets us go from the desktop experience in Revu and really leverage some of that same kind of functionality and power, but lets you get it out into the field. And one of the key things about that is that it was purpose built for the web and iPhone and Android native applications. So the iOS application is live right now. Android is coming soon. Now that's going to be a question someone's going to ask. But this whole thing was launched just fall of last year. So one of the really important things is that it's super light. It lets you move really fast. Not a lot of onboarding deployment functionality that you work through to get the tool in your team's hands. It's very simple. Once you go to the site and get the app, you can log in and get straight to work. There's a lot more on Bluebeam Cloud in our product tour here shortly, so we're going to keep this moving. This is really exciting for both me and to Bluebeam because this is one of the first major product evolutions that we've seen aside from great stuff happening with Revu. This is a really strong trajectory in a direction that's going to be a really rich experience and value add for everyone using it. So with that, I'm going to pass to my partner, Peter Noyes, who's going to talk a little bit more.
Thanks, Josiah. So like everyone said, I'm Peter. I may have met some of you over the years at various XCons. I've been at Bluebeam for a while, longtime developer on Revu, and at the beginning of Bluebeam Cloud even a bit. But I made a switch to product management and really enjoying my time in product management. I think all along at Bluebeam I kind of had that product lens even as an engineer. So really excited to show you what we have today. But before that, just wanted to talk a little bit about, maybe give you a little bit behind the scenes, why we're really excited about Bluebeam Cloud and where we're going. So the first thing I want to mention is just a bit about PDF. So, with everything that Josiah talked about Revu and Bluebeam Cloud, it really is PDF at the center of that. We're not the stewards of PDF, but we've really, because of all of you really adopted, PDF as this standard for the AEC industry, and with that we've built a lot of functionality around that. But that actually kind of lays out the gauntlet for us a bit as well. Is just a little bit about PDF. It was invented in the late '80s, early 1990s. Before we all really had internet adopted, and it was really designed to be a static representation of printed paper. It was never designed, to be a format for collaborative editing. It was, where we're at today with iPhone, like mobile web technology, PDF never even conceived things that would be possible. So, for us to take PDF, stay true to PDF, which is still very important to us, and build out web mobile functionality around that's quite the gauntlet. So that's one thing that's worth pointing out. And the other thing is, we understand and we know that, how you use Revu, how rich it is, how all the things that you can do with those markups. But we really recognize that you really need those, not just in the office, but wherever you are, whether, the person you're collaborating with just has a browser available, you're, out in the field on your phone. It's a different place that we're at, these days. So both of those, give us the opportunity to really, create something new here, and we're excited to show it. And then Josiah, hand it back to you.
Sure, yeah. So like Peter mentioned, PDF was not written with the idea of collaborative editing. It was really created as a representation of a piece of paper. And so because of that, cloud native PDF doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a cloud native PDF. It is a local file type designed for local operating systems to access and unpack. So that means that cloud native PDF compatibility is hard, but Bluebeam actually is really pretty far down the path of cracking that code. And we know that you actually need a really rich document editing and markup functionality no matter where you are. And to do that, we really have to free the contents, the richness of the PDF from that, from the confines of the PDF format. Another thing that is coming is we also know that integrations are really important to you. That's another thing that's really difficult for a file-based local desktop application like Revu. And that's not a new problem there, but for the Revu ecosystem, integrations have been limited solely to what we've exposed through Studio. And so that's limited. So because of that, we know that there's an avenue for really rich integrations because of the advent of Bluebeam Cloud. So our dream is that the powerful markup tools that you all create are in your hands whenever you need them. And a lot of these moments, you're not in front of Revu. You're on a website, you're on your phone, you're somewhere out in the field. And those markups that you want to use, they contain a ton of information. Like I said, it's almost like your IP that you've baked into it and how you communicate. But when they're in a PDF, they're siloed to that PDF. You almost have to share the PDF for someone to do that thing. And you really want to see markups across projects, not just within individual files. And so you either end up with these really enormous kind of Cro-Magnon files so that you can see all the markups across the whole project in one file, and that gets really unwieldy. Or you have to open a bunch of files, and that's just not how you work. So the idea of kind of cloudifying or making PDFs more cloud native, it frees those markups from the confines of the file format, and it enables you to actually see the things you're trying to see just by logging into your project. That's what Bluebeam Cloud does. We want you to be able to work on your projects. We know you don't want to work on files per se. So Bluebeam Cloud is the way to get out of the files and into your projects. So with that, this is probably the moment that most people are waiting for. We're going to jump into a live tour of primarily Bluebeam Cloud. Understand that this webinar is focused primarily on Bluebeam Cloud. We will happily take questions on Revu. We want to show you Bluebeam Cloud because it's brand new. As we get toward the end here, we're certainly happy to share anything we need to about Revu. But right now, let's jump into a tour of Bluebeam Cloud. So it's to you, Peter.
All right. So let me start my screen share. Okay, so this is a screen in Bluebeam Cloud. I've jumped in a bit. I've logged in using my Bluebeam ID, and I'm in what we call the project space. I'll back out of this in a bit to explain another area, but this is a great place to start. So in the project space of Bluebeam Cloud, really, the capabilities here are to have your drawings organized and available, for your entire project team, in that construction phase, as well as to perform a number of lightweight, workflows within that environment. So things like managing punch lists or defect lists, and RFIs and submittals as well. So when you're, this project has already been onboarded, but if you haven't onboarded a project, some of the key things you need to do is the most important is to publish your drawings. So the idea here is that you upload your PDF files, and then we help organize them such that we know what disciplines they are, what the sheet numbers are, and whatnot, so that you have your conformed drawing set here, and you can upload additional revisions as well. So that's all managed here and then available to everyone on your project team, whether they're on web or mobile. So with that, team is probably the next best area to show. So, with your team, you can, bring everyone in. Similar to Studio, not everyone needs a full license of Bluebeam. There's unpaid, collaborator type capabilities here if people just need to look at information. And another important thing you can do is create groups and basically group your users together. So there's some really important reasons why you might want to do that. We'll get to that a bit later, but one of those reasons, punch, you might want to assign, punch items to one of your subcontractors or a trade rather than individual people. So if you've been following along with Bluebeam Cloud, that groups been there for a while, but that wasn't there from the beginning. So that's the team. Another top level piece of functionality that we have is the map view. So I don't know if you've been following along or not, but Bluebeam did purchase a company called Atlas back in 2018, and some of that technology is incorporated here. So basically the concept is, you have all of your drawings organized in the cloud, but what if you want to see multiple drawings in the same context? this allows you to do that. So you can have multiple sheets that are basically stitched together that are presented in their real world coordinates on a map. And then you can do all of those same workflows I mentioned in this space as well. So here's some punch items already. So, we want to kind of meet you the way you want to work. So you want to work more file-based, that's fine. If you're working on a more civil horizontal project or even a large scale vertical construction where you have a lot of partial sheets, this is a great way to work as well. So that's sort of some high level components here. Now let's jump into a drawing. So I have a 1.1.1 here. I'll open that up. And this is opening up what's called our markup editor. So the markup editor is where you experience something most akin to what you're familiar with in Revu. So this markup editor can pop up, in many different contexts, depending on what part of the app you're in, but the experience will always be the same. So we have, very familiar markup tools here, as well as a markup list. And if I select a markup, you can see some properties pertaining to that. So a couple things here, we're really trying to show a simplified UI so that, the most important thing here is the drawing, the work to be done. So that needs to be front and center. So we do things like only show, the properties toolbar, when you need it, just so it's in your moment and then gets out of the way when you don't need it. So I can go ahead and, create a new markup just so you can see. And, again, this is web, this is cloud, but this is all really still PDF compatible markups, which is really exciting that, we're cracking that nut that Josiah mentioned. And then one of the things I'm most excited about in this experience, I'll let Josiah describe it, is our tool chest.
Yeah, so like we mentioned a little bit ago in Revu, one of the crown jewels of being a part of the Bluebeam ecosystem is that once you create your markups, if you baked your communication style, your DNA into, those markups become how your team communicates. And when you go into Bluebeam Cloud, when you start trying to use it, one of the things you'll first notice is that the tools that you created in Revu, if you chose to push them from Revu 21 up into Bluebeam Cloud, you'll see those same tools. You don't have to recreate them. You can actually start using the ones you have already been using. So there's not a big lift there to start communicating with your team in a language they already understand. And they show up in the same way, in the way Peter described in this tool chest, and that makes it really easy, really fast to drop a markup just from the web here. Yeah, so markups in cloud, real super easy. Same concept
guys,
of Revu.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that several people are having issues with the screen share right now. So I know some people did have success with taking the smaller view of the screen share and blowing it up to be the larger portion on their screen. Some people are just experiencing some lag time. So we apologize for that. I think that just happens when we have live demos, unfortunately, but we will have this recording sent around. You can also try refreshing your screen, and that might also help. And sorry to interrupt, guys, but we are getting a lot of feedback on that, and I wanted to address that. We apologize for that, and you will be getting the recording of this. So hopefully if you're having those issues, you can go back and watch this part. Apologies.
Thank you. No problem.
All
yeah,
right,
so kind of picking up. Go ahead, Peter.
I was just going to wrap up the tool chest piece. Go ahead.
I was just going to point out that as what everyone is seeing, we hope everyone is seeing, is Peter's screen showing the tool chest there. But actually, if I'm signed in on my own browser, wherever I am, and I'm dropping my markups, Peter's seeing those same markups that I'm dropping. He's seeing them live. So there's not any sort of there's no lag other than our webinar platform lag. Apparently, there's no lag between the time that I drop a markup, Peter sees it. It just makes it a really easy way to collaborate and work with other people.
No, great point, Josiah. One of the key things that we're doing here when we think about how can we take PDF and make it more cloud web native, and collaboration is a big part of that. Just making sure that when two people are seeing the same thing, that the work that you're each doing is reflected for each other. So that's one of the key ingredients that we took in from the beginning of building this, which is another really exciting aspect of it. So just a couple more things on the web. So when I have a markup selected, I'll show you the markup list over here. So we have all the list of comments. We've separated them out between just the shapes that you're doing versus the real comments with text. So you can really hone in on that dialogue here and the questions. You can reply within the panel. You can change statuses. If you've used custom statuses in Revu, those carry forward as well. Again, really trying to have as much compatibility as we can. So yeah, I think that's probably good for the markup editor. So now let me zoom out a bit and switch things up a bit. So everything I've been showing you is project-based, but we recognize that not every type of work that you do is really project-based, right? So much of your Revu usage is just doing something quick and dirty, a quick sketch, commenting on a file that you have access to. So not all of your work fits cleanly into a true construction project. So more recently, we've released what we call My Workspace. So this is an area of the application for all of that other type of work that's not so project specific. So you can access that same markup editor right from here. And if you're new to Bluebeam Cloud, this is a great way to get started. So all you do is add your PDF, and you're taken right into this experience where you have your markup tools. If you've used Revu 21, you'd have access to the same tool chest. And then this work here then will follow with you. So you log in on a different computer, different browser, your work goes with you. You can keep going. So that's My Workspace. So that's wasn't there day one when we launched all of this, but that's a more recent addition, and we're going to continue iterating in this area. So just wanted to call that out, and then we'll switch back to that project space, but this time on mobile. So let me go ahead and bring up my phone here. So this is the iOS app. So you might notice it does look fairly familiar to the web. There is similar functionality, except that we've really focused on the use cases for mobile. So it's not one-to-one compatibility. It's really the tools you need on mobile out in the field. So the first thing I'll show is, let me pull up a drawing here. So this is a drawing that we've been using for a punch walk. So capturing punch items, that's probably one of the premier use cases of the phone app in the field. So it's as easy as tapping that plus sign, grabbing my markup, and I'll place it right there in that office location. And then I can go ahead and fill out the form to as much as I want to complete it as I choose to now. So we know that if you're doing a punch walk in front of an owner, you might want to get through this quickly and not fill a lot of detail to not keep people waiting. But if you're meticulous and you have the time, you can do that. So we're trying to support all the different ways that you might want to work. So that's a punch item. RFIs are similar. You can start an RFI in the field. You can start documenting issues, and then finally, when those RFIs are resolved, you can post them to the drawing here so that everyone can see this information. So that's punch and RFIs on the drawing. And again, that map view is really interesting, depending on what type of work you're doing. So here's that same drawing, but in the map view. So again, trying to account for how you want to work. And one of the great things about the map view is that it's not going to work for me because I'm not at this location. But there's that little arrow. If you tap that, it'll actually jump you to the real world location that you're standing at. So if you want to just see that information around you that's relevant, you can do that. And once all these punch items are captured, there's a lot more functionality on the web to go back and be able to slice through that, generate reports, do bulk editing, more of the heavy lifting type of punch activities that you might do if you're running the process. So that's mobile punch and RFIs. And then the last thing I want to show on mobile before we start answering your questions is really recent that we've released. And that is more in the area of the markups on mobile. So let me go ahead and open that markup.pdf that we were showing before on the web. So we don't have full markup creation yet on mobile, but we're working on that. Just a couple things to note, even just looking at what we have here, is that, I zoom in on these drawings. These are full vector PDFs. If you're familiar, with rasterization of files, we're not doing that. So things stay crisp. These are real PDF, vector content on both web and mobile. And then we have the markups as well that are visible. So I can even tap them. And we are now letting you do a couple of types of changes on the mobile leading up to more markup capabilities. So one of those is that I can add a reply here to markups if I'm out in the field. And then the other thing I can do is I can change the status. This will really help complete workflows and push information out into the field. So I don't know, Josiah, anything else worth showing before we switch to questions?
Well, there's probably lots of nuances things that we could show here, but one thing I wanted to call out was that this view, similar to the web view that we just were looking at a moment ago, they're both live views, so they're constantly synchronized, so that as you're seeing someone else make a markup, you can see it live if you're out in the field, and if you reply to it in real time, they would see your reply, so you could actually reply in real time and get your questions answered very quickly. Just allows you to move at a much faster pace. So just to call that out.
Great. Okay, I think with that, we can open it up for questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Josiah and Peter. We're going to be answering the questions. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane. If we run out of time, which we will, I just want to let you guys know there were over 200 questions submitted. So we're going to answer as many as we can, but we will respond to you via email with your question, I promise. So I'm going to just jump in and get started on the live questions. One thing we did get some questions around was security in regards to Bluebeam Cloud. So this one in particular says, can Bluebeam Cloud be configured on-prem so files stay secure? So I don't know if you want to maybe just speak to security with Bluebeam Cloud in general.
Yeah, I'll take a pass at that one, sure. So first of all, the question may have come from a place of understanding that Bluebeam has previously offered a product called Studio Enterprise. It's an on-prem product that is effectively a private instance of Bluebeam Studio collaboration platform. It gets installed in an on-prem type scenario, so that it's a siloed, could potentially be air-gapped, and therefore highly secure. And maybe it causes the solution to maintain the security status that the parent org has achieved already. So the idea of Bluebeam Cloud being an on-prem thing is not the primary goal of that product. The primary goal of that product is for it to be a obviously cloud-hosted product. There are definitely concepts of private clouds and gov clouds, and Bluebeam actually is in active discovery, understanding what a valid use case for that would be in an on-prem or air-gapped or private kind of scenario. So the short answer is today, Bluebeam Cloud is not available in a private or on-prem delivery method, but that is something that Bluebeam's in discovery on. We know there's a need for that in a high security environment. I know that depending on the type of projects you're working on, some of those projects are air-gapped or in dark, as in no internet connectivity type scenarios. So we understand there's a need for that value. We're studying that right now. The market will decide where we're headed, but the short-term answer is we don't have that. The long-term answer is we know we have that.
Great. This should be a quick one. Where is your cloud solution hosted? Amazon, Azure?
It's in Amazon.
Okay. What is the difference between Bluebeam Cloud and Bluebeam Revu for iPad?
There's a lot of differences, actually. So Bluebeam Cloud is Bluebeam's new cloud and mobile native platform. Revu for iPad is a product that we built back around the time that Revu was really gaining momentum. It's based on the Revu for Windows code base. From a technical perspective, what that means is that it is a very feature-rich, very heavy application that that works actually fairly well on Revu for iPad, but is a completely different beast than Bluebeam Cloud on an iOS application. Bluebeam Cloud is a more streamlined, lighter. It was purpose-built for that platform, for the iOS operating system. It was not port over. It is built to take into consideration the limits of not only the device, but the interactions that are available on that device. So instead of trying to port over something that was designed to use with a mouse and keyboard, it's something that is naturally a native built for that. I don't know, Peter, if there's more richness you want to add there.
Yeah, I think when we say cloud native, with the Bluebeam Cloud Mobile, really thinking about ways to best use the capabilities of a mobile device. So we can do things like when you change markups, we're sending a lot less data over the wire to collaborate with others, and it's just we've overcome some technical hurdles that allow a lot more capabilities in the future that are not possible without kind of rethinking the way things work.
Yeah, another key thing is that the Revu for iPad application still uses the PDF format as its primary source. You're still talking about data that's locked into that format. Bluebeam Cloud can consume a PDF, but then you're not consuming it. You're not accessing a PDF. You're accessing that kind of cloudified, extracted version of that data. So there's a much longer future there for that, and much more potential when you unlock the data in the PDF.
And this might be referring to Revu for iPad, but is there a separate fee if I use it on my computer and I want to use it on my iPad?
If you're talking about Revu for iPad is a single device license. So you get a device license for one iPad, you get a device license for another iPad. That is a product that we continue to offer in that same format. Revu is now a part of Bluebeam's new subscription packages, and that means that when you are a subscriber to Bluebeam, you get access to Revu, the desktop application, as well as Bluebeam Cloud via web, and the native Bluebeam Cloud apps on iOS and Android. So in that scenario, you do not have to have a separate subscription to access Revu, and then also Cloud, and then also a mobile device. You would need one subscription, and you can access all those things simultaneously, and even multiples of those things simultaneously with that one subscription.
Okay, and to that effect, how many users can access sessions through Bluebeam Cloud? Is there a limit, or?
Today sessions is a Bluebeam Revu specific collaboration interaction. The reality is that sessions was built around the PDF format. And so the idea of collaborating around a PDF is different than the idea of collaborating in cloud. So the collaboration that occurs in cloud is actually not around a PDF, it's around cloudified PDF. So we are looking for ways to connect the collaboration experiences in Revu and experiences in cloud. But today, when you sign to cloud and collaborate, you're not collaborating in a session, you're collaborating in the cloud platform.
Okay. This one's a particular challenge someone's having. In addition to what is being discussed, I'm looking for a multi-discipline review and approval sign-off application without having to add another application. Is this cloud application there or heading there?
I could take that one. I think one of the great things about Revu is that by having markups and markup data associated with those markups, and especially having statuses, for any sort of workflow you have that you need a status change, such as someone setting an approval for something else, Revu is great, for being able to do that, and that DNA is carrying forward into the cloud. So definitely that's the direction we're headed. That's why we already support custom statuses and statuses on the web with Bluebeam Cloud. So is it purpose built for your exact need? Potentially not, but just the way Bluebeam has come to be, in terms of the power of our markups and the markup list and custom columns and custom statuses, you can design your own workflows basically, and we're bringing that forward.
Great. And you guys already mentioned this, but let's reiterate it because we do have a question. If you have Revu, is Cloud included? And I guess that depends on which Revu they have, but go for it.
If you own a perpetual license to Revu, like say you purchased or your organization purchased a license for Revu 20 or anything older than that, then you currently do not have access to Bluebeam Cloud aside from a trial. You could sign up for a free trial, which I highly encourage you to do if you haven't already. Check it out and poke around in there. But by default, if you purchase Revu 20 or older, you do not have license or permission to access Bluebeam Cloud. But if you are a subscriber or got you a subscription, then you have access to the whole ecosystem of Revu plus Bluebeam Cloud and the native apps that go with that.
Okay. Can users without a full license comment in a session through Bluebeam Cloud?
Yes, conflating concepts a little bit there. The idea of collaboration in a session and collaborating in cloud, right now they're currently a little bit separate. But in either case, there is the notion of I could be a subscriber, I could invite Peter, and Peter might not be a subscriber. Peter can come in and collaborate with me, regardless of whether I've started a studio session or I'm using Bluebeam Cloud out in the field. And either one of those scenarios, Peter will be able to communicate, be a part of the collaboration. He would have a little bit more limited experience than I would because I'm a subscriber, but he would be able to do that. That works really well in the case of, for example, a GC with subs who the subs don't necessarily all have a subscription. They can still use the same tools to collaborate. They don't have to use different tools.
Okay, I'm assuming this is specific to Bluebeam Cloud, but can we use our own symbols in the markup?
Yes, that applies to
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah. I mean, that's the power of the tool chest is that you can create your own symbols, you can centralize those, you can standardize on those, and then those symbols you can use in either Revu or Bluebeam Cloud.
All right. Is there a limit to the size of the project you can bring into the cloud?
There's no specific limit. That said, I would say at this point, Bluebeam Cloud with the lighter weight tools, like I was showing Punch and whatnot, is pretty purpose built at this point. So for a really large project, you might just hit the limits, you might find some use cases in there that are not yet supported. So I would say that at least for Punch and those field tools, that you might want to think about starting out on a smaller project where onboarding, getting time to usage is really important, and you need something just that lightweight, and we'll get that team going. So I think that's the biggest consideration at this point. But we've had a number of larger projects use it and get into tens of thousands of Punch items and be successful. But there's no baked in limit.
This is a little particular to someone's situation, but interesting. For the mobile version, I have a Stylus. Can that pen function with this version?
So that's a great question. So, as I demoed a little bit about markup on mobile, and we're not there yet in terms of creating the markups. But part of the reason is we're really trying to understand the best way to bring those markups to the field on these devices, accounting for how people are really working. So, I think Stylus support is something definitely being considered as we're figuring that out.
And along that same line, what does exporting the Punch list look like? Is it similar to markup export?
Yeah, so when we export Punch lists from the cloud, you get a couple things. One is that you can get a report where it spells out what the Punch item is, the associated photos with it, and those details. But you can also get the PDF out with all the Punch items, and then that comes with all of the markups, and they're fully populated with punch specific columns, and all those photos are in there as capture items. So with punch, you can get all that out, really to archive all that information, and then continue to, use Revu to look at all that data that was captured.
So I think that kind of answered this question, but just want to make sure, can markups be exported from Cloud similar to a markup summary and review? Is that what we just went over?
In terms of punch, yes. In terms of more flexible, just all the other markup types like clouds and callouts and all those things. Today, we don't yet have an export function that summarizes, but you can always get the PDF back out and bring that into Revu to generate a report.
Okay. If I put my drawings on the cloud, can they be synced back to my PC for backup and viewing in Revu?
Yeah, there's a way to do that to get, as your project's ending, you can export everything in that project back to a studio project. That's supported today. In terms of a live continuous sync, today we don't have anything like that. But like Josiah mentioned, we are, continuing to investigate, opportunities for bringing Revu and Bluebeam Cloud closer and closer together.
And these two are kind of related to kind of the system requirements, but what are the system requirements for Mac, PC, Android, which we already kind of talked about is coming? And then is there an API for Bluebeam Cloud?
A couple questions there. In terms of system requirements, for web, you just need a modern browser. A Chromium-based browser, works really well. So that would be either Chrome itself or Edge on Windows, Safari on Mac. So really just a modern browser is the only requirement there. And then in terms of iOS compatibility, it supports both phone and iPad. The only limitation is that it only works on the two most recent versions of iOS. So I can't remember if that's 13 and 14 or 14 and 15. But basically that's what's supported is so any iOS device that runs one of the two last released iOS versions is supported. And then in terms of APIs, so that's something that we're looking at as well. We don't have anything released yet, but we're in development on that. We've selected our new API gateway that's going to host cloud APIs going forward, and are hard at work implementing that. So don't have a specific date yet for when that will be available, but that's in progress.
Okay, this may potentially be a roadmap one as well, but on punch lists and RFIs, are you planning to install voice input for text?
On iOS, that might just work if you're in a text field and you use the microphone button in that text field. In terms of us allowing you to record voice separate from that, I'm not sure where that would sit on the roadmap or if that's even needed. So I would try that text input on iOS and send a suggestion. That's still not working.
Okay. How will registration work for a company, a larger company? Will it be per user or for an entire entity? And I'm sure that's kind of on a case by case, but if you can address any of that.
Sure, yeah. The way we used to sell licenses was it was a perpetual model. So you could buy a single seat license there were different couple license types. For example, you could buy a enterprise license that would allow an enterprise to buy a few licenses and share those multiple people. That's kind of the way we used to work. The reality is that with named user access to a product where you're signing into a product with your name, the subscription is a one-to-one subscription basis. So if your organization has, for example, 500 people, the organization will need to get 500 subscriptions for all 500 people to have the full subscriber experience. If they wanted to purchase a smaller number of those and then allocate some as the free collaborator type role, then those users could still benefit from the same thing Peter and I were talking earlier, where you don't have to be a subscriber to actually collaborate with your teams. You just have a slightly more limited experience. So the reality is you still don't have to necessarily buy a one-for-one. You do have to allocate a one-for-one named user. So you would have to have an ID to log in. So you do have to sign in as yourself. You can't sign in anonymously. And that's by design, because we don't think that collaboration happens in a way that's constructed anonymously. So the idea there is that there's a lot of value in you signing into a product, then your attributes starting to follow you around, like your tools or your documents, things like that. So there's a big value in being signed in as yourself, and that's the direction we're headed. So the idea of an org having an org license that was just like an unlimited use license is not a thing that we have today. It's not something we would say we would never do, but today that's not how we're approaching it.
So this is a question we got earlier that we might have already addressed, but does cloud replace, or will it replace, desktop review?
I think the short answer to that is absolutely not. I'll give a little bit, and then Peter, I'll let you go. The idea of cloud is not a get rid of review as a desktop app and start using cloud. It is an augment to the experience that you already have. It does not replace it. And it is very important to note that that review is a completely different thing than Bluebeam Cloud. Bluebeam Cloud is not ever intended to be review in the cloud. It does intend to present some of the similar document editing, markup, those kinds of functionalities, but it is not intended to say, you should stop using review now and start using this. But it is intended to give you additional value from Bluebeam that you can say, I used to use review at my desktop, and now I can get up and walk away on my phone, grab a device that doesn't have review installed, and keep working. I'm not blocked. I can get more work out in the field. So that's one way to kind of frame that. Peter, what were you going to say?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, yeah, definitely, it's not a replacement. I would say the vision for where we're going is this concept of Bluebeam anywhere, and that your work goes with you. So I would just think of Revu is Bluebeam's desktop client, and Bluebeam Cloud is Bluebeam's web and mobile client. And that's the vision for where we're going. Bluebeam Cloud as it is today is a great first step in that direction. There's more to do, and we're going to keep working on that. But definitely, Revu is here to stay, and everything else you see will just be a continuation of that. So, some of the key, workflows, use cases, we know many of you, you might collaborate with people that don't have a Windows computer, or you want to collaborate with someone and you don't want to have to go through all that work explaining to them, how to download Revu, how to install it, how to get access to the thing you're trying to send to them. With where we're going, that you can just share a web link and be able to have people have access to that work you're trying to have them look at. So it's use cases like that that are really important. So yeah, different reasons, different use cases for different types of devices, but we just want to support across devices anywhere you're at, where you're trying to get work done.
Yeah, kind of back to the original foundational statement about how data gets locked in a PDF, and the way that you interact with PDF specifically is at your desk with Revu. That kind of ties you to that specific workstation, or a workstation that has Revu. Unlocking the data from the PDF and unlocking you from your desk, getting you out into the field wherever you need to do your work, is the heart of the direction of Bluebeam Cloud. It's really just freedom there.
Right. And I think we already addressed this, but it's worth reiterating. Can you have a trial period of Bluebeam Cloud without impacting your current subscription of Bluebeam Revu, or does the trial upgrade you to Revu 21?
I think maybe there's a little bit of a crossing, either a crossing of my understanding or a crossing of concepts. If you purchased, or if someone purchased for you a subscription to Bluebeam and it allows you to sign into Revu 21, then you already have access to Bluebeam Cloud. So you don't need a different thing for that. If you have a license for a previous version of Revu, like Revu 20, for example, since that does not grant you access to the newest suite of tools, including Revu 21 and Bluebeam Cloud, then a trial for the newest subscription things would not have any impact on your previous license. Trial it. You could say, you know what, that's not for me, and it wouldn't have any impact on your license you already had. In fact, you could trial and subscribe, end up with a subscription and the other license, and still have no impact on your work. So it's actually a really easy way to test it out, find out. And then another, if you're a Revu user today, the newer versions of Revu starting in, I think it was 17, support side-by-side installation. So if you're actively doing projects with Revu 20, and you want to do a trial for a subscription, check out Bluebeam Cloud, maybe check out Revu 21, see what's new there. You can install that side by side with Revu 20 without impacting your day-to-day work. Test it out. If you like it, awesome. Subscribe. If you don't, that's not a problem. It doesn't impact the fact that you had 20 installed. You can uninstall it and keep on working with 20.
Great. Are there any firewall restrictions when working remotely?
A great question. I could be wrong, but I'll put my engineering hat on here for a second. To my knowledge, everything that Bluebeam Cloud is doing is just pretty vanilla, typical, HTTP S, over port 443. I think there are some WebSocket type connections, but those also would be the same. So, unless you need to specifically allow certain URLs or block URLs, there's not worries about ports and those types of things. But it is hitting our API endpoints in the cloud, so the clients would need to be able to have access to those, but they're fairly standard modern web type connections that get made.
Okay. Other than PDF, what file formats are supported?
So, Bluebeam Cloud and Revu are very PDF centric. So that's the primary file type for both. For Revu, it also does some PDF conversion type capabilities. So you can bring in things like Word documents and whatnot. You can add images to PDFs, but in terms of what you're opening and viewing, it's always a PDF. And Cloud is kind of the same. You bring in PDFs, and we allow you to work on top of those. And also for Punch, bring in certain image formats from the phone and whatnot. But in both cases, it's primarily PDF.
And along the lines of images, we had the question, can you embed and see 360-degree pictures in Bluebeam Cloud?
We don't support that yet on Bluebeam Cloud, but that is supported in Revu.
Okay. Can we house all of our projects on the Bluebeam Cloud indefinitely?
Yes. As long as your subscription remains active, that data is housed indefinitely. They don't expire or go away.
So what if you have a document open and you lose internet connection? Will it sync once the data connection is restored?
That's a great question. So on web, a live connection is required, but things aren't being queued up. In real time, as you place that markup, it's immediately getting saved back to the cloud. So offline is less of an issue on web. And on mobile, the way it works is that things are cached locally as you're doing them. And if you happen to lose internet and then regain it, none of your work is lost. You'll be able to keep working. And once connectivity is restored, things are uploaded back to the cloud.
Okay. Guys, I feel like we could really sit here and talk all day. Just to reiterate, we have over 300 questions that have come in. So obviously we only got to a small sampling, but we'll end it on this for a little plug. Well, first I'll say, someone did write, would you call Bluebeam an Adobe Acrobat Pro on steroids? So just that plug. But does Bluebeam offer in-depth training classes? So let's end it on that maybe.
I'll take that one. So Bluebeam offers some great global services training classes that are, they're paid classes that anybody can go on our website, read about, sign up for. Your orgs can get them for your teams. It's a great thing for onboarding a large team. one thing that is new is that subscribers now have access to a whole program called Bluebeam University that has a whole enormously rich section of training for Bluebeam Revu specifically. Another great thing about Bluebeam Cloud is that it has a lot of built-in help that will kind of catch you in your moment and help you understand how to pick a tool up. It makes it easier to learn. But yes, there are training classes that can be paid. There are free ones if you're a subscriber. So check those out. There's a lot of help there. I know Revu there's a lot to learn, and Cloud is new. So definitely, yes, reach out to those training teams that can help you get up to speed.
Well, thank you to our presenters, and thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. Once you exit today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we appreciate your feedback. You also will receive a follow-up email in the next few days with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. And again, we will be answering your questions as soon as we can. Lots of them came in. But on behalf of Bluebeam and our presenters, thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.